Not so legendary review here. We're going to be talking about the toon support in general overall. Like, as all of the cards that came out, toons have been kind of interesting. They've been actually able to be played as a deck. Before all these new cards, I did not believe that they could be played. I tried. I honestly did try. I was really excited because toons have been a deck that I really enjoyed. Now, how the deck works and how it will play in the future is very, very, very interesting because you really do have to analyze all the cards in the deck. So when you look at all the cards, everything about the deck, you do have to remember this deck has like a pause button that kind of makes you have to wait a whole turn for every single thing you do. So when you're looking at the cards, in order to try and overcommit for really big monsters, such as the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon or the Ancient Gear Golem Toon card, those two cards, though they're really, really good, have a huge cost to get them out. And with the Blue Eyes, if you get your toon content or your toon world popped, that card is just done. So first of all, despite the fact that that card special summons itself, the toon Blue Eyes, stuff like that, is not very good. When I look at the current build that I've been playing for a while, having the most success with online, which I've been doing a lot of testing with a lot of decks recently. That's one of the main reasons why I haven't been posting. But the toon deck, I have been cutting out as many of the special summon cards as possible, all of those old toons. The only old toon I'm currently running is one copy of Toon Mermaid, and that's because Toon Mermaid is an XYZ maker, so being able to just have another guy out, summon her XYZ immediately, gets it so you don't have to deal with the minus 500 for her attacks. If your opponent spaces the card, you go minus like 100. Those things are very, very bad. So overall, she's the only one of the older toons I enjoy. I don't even like the Toon Dark Magician Girl as much because despite the fact that she can attack the turn she's summoned, it's just committing that much doesn't actually do that much for you. You can summon her and attack for 2,000, but with like the very little protection except for with the field spell, and the fact that if they pop the field spell, you lose too many cards in order to try and make this card decent. So the build I've been using has been a lot of the level 4s, like Toon Mass Sorcerer is just the greatest card in the world, the card Toon Gemini Elf, these two cards allowing you to get advantage and pop your opponent's advantage so you're still gaining advantage from that, as well as being able to poke for damage is really strong. Another big thing that I like about this deck is cards like Call of the Haunted, but we switched that for Powerful Rebirth, a card that when it's summoned even if your opponent spaces it, you keep your monster. So, opponent activates Blind MST. You can chain this card, summon your monster, the card dies, you keep your monster, and he keeps his 100 attack point boost, which is really good. Yes, it gains a level, but that's even better because it allows you to make just amazing XYZs for just, like, there's a lot of level 5 XYZs you can make. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is you have 3 of the Cyber Dragon, which is the only card I left in there that special summons itself, because he special summons himself with his own effect as opposed to needing a Toon World. Cyber Dragon also protects himself, so if a field spell or the other Toon World continuous spell is destroyed, he does not die, making him an amazing card for that reason. So the field spell just protects your monsters insanely. No cards can get rid of you. You can't be Fiendish Chained, you can't be Deprisoned, you can't be Mirror Forced, because this card just protects them. You can banish cards, really strong. So the card that I believe really helps toons out is none other than the spell card, or the trap card, sorry, Lose One Turn. What Lose One Turn does is it makes it so, even though I don't get my extra turn, so a big thing, as I was saying, was I summon my card and I have to wait a turn. Lose a turn makes it so the opponent has the exact same problem. And cards like the Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, which I only am currently playing 1 of, and the Toon Cyber Dragon, which yes, I'm playing 3 of, you special summon more often on your opponent's turn, so after you can successfully get this card flipped up, just the continuous card is resolved, everything is safe. You can flip up Call the Haunted or Powerful Rebirth, whichever one you're personally choosing to use. Get this card off. It turns itself automatically to defense, meaning that you have an invincible wall now because your opponent can't space it. Like, you have the continuous trap card and your field spell now. Your opponent has to pick if they want their special summons or if they want the field spell gone. So what happens a lot of times is you get to flip up cards like Powerful Rebirth, summon your card in defensive position. You now have this monster, If your opponent tries to attack over it, you can banish cards to prevent it. Your opponent can't target it. Your opponent can't do anything. If they do try and space the field spell, you can once again just keep the game slowed down because your continuous trap card. So I just feel that card is what makes the deck really, really good. As a whole, the deck's pretty interesting. It's a really slow deck, and by that I mean is you can win in several turns. So you could win before the 10th turn is up, but you do have to worry about the setup and everything because you have to, every single turn, get a monster out and protect it. Cards like Mirror Force become a staple. You need to be able to protect your cards, and this deck is really interesting. You get cards that are good out of all the spells and traps. I was only a big fan. I loved Toon Kingdom. Greatest card, it makes the deck good. You need that card at like 17. I actually play 1 to 2 Terraformings currently just because it's that good. Really good card. Now, the other card that's really, really good out of all the Toon spell and trap cards is the Toon Briefcase, because that card says, when a monster is summoned, as long as you have a Toon monster, you can bounce it. And being able to bounce a card to the deck without targeting, without destroying, without doing anything, and without needing Toon World is insane, because you run a ton of Toon monsters. Being able to flip this up and just put it back is really good. That is the main thing about the Toon deck. I do really think the deck's pretty good, and this overall is, it's got a lot of strange cards that are really nice, but I feel like the new support, cards like Comic Hand, cards like the Mimikad, I believe is how you pronounce it, they're okay to good cards, so they have amazing effects. But the fact you need Toon World and a Toon monster out, while happening to have this card, and your opponent having cards that make the cards worth it, such as your opponent having a monster that it's worth Comic Handing to take the monster while you have Toon World and this card out, and your opponent being able to just space the field spell and you lose all of your progress, is just, it makes those cards really difficult to use. There's another one called Shadow, which burns cards as long as you have the field spell out, which is pretty decent. I think it'd be better if you didn't have to have Toon World than if instead you just needed a Toon monster. But I'm not going to complain that much because being able to burn your opponent for a bunch of random life points and then just push for damage is really strong. So that is my thoughts on the Toon cards, the Toon deck. I have talked about some of the cards when they released. This is overall after I had done a lot of testing. I have tested for hours with this deck with a bunch of other decks. I'll be trying to make a bunch of videos today and hoping they come out really well for you. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and all that. And as always, have a wonderful day.